Mrs. Covington.
Well, you said by tenure, but since you are the chairman, I'm just going to let you go last.
Thank you, Mrs. Covington.
Because I do have more tenure. Remember, I was on the board a year and a half that Dr. O was referring to. I won the first elected school board in '95 and served on the board a year and a half, and then my husband had to medically retire. My son had 2 more years Virginia Tech. I missed working, so I said, Dr. Kelly, I'm going to resign from the board, and I'm going to apply for a job to go back to work. And that's what I did. So with these 12 years, and add that year and a half, I resigned then July 1 of '97. Interview was panel and selected then as principal at Dumfries Elementary. So I served 6 more years then at Dumfries School, so 13 and a half years. But since you're the chairman, Mr. Johns, you do get the last word. Anyway, and for the special education, I'm sitting here listening to that mention, and I can go way back on that. I have always been such a big supporter of special education, too. I can recall about 25 years ago, I was principal at Kilby, and I kept getting special education classes at my school. Then there was no site-based management. The money didn't follow the student. The money was handled in central office. And so Mr. Carter would say, I know, Ms. Covington, you're getting more special education classes than you really ought to have in your school. However, you're receptive. You're always willing to take a class. I never hear you say, oh, no, I don't need another class, or I don't want that class. You always are accepting of the classes, and the principals that do that sometimes get more classes assigned than if a principal who it's obvious doesn't want another special education class at their school. So I did have many special education classes and was very supportive, because I also am a big supporter of special education students and classes. And so I'm going to go back and mention a couple of things as to why I went into education and what I've done. I jotted down some things. I thought about what my dad told me growing up. My dad said, if you have a job and the job requires you to work 8 hours a day, you work 9 hours a day. You give the boss an extra hour. Show that you appreciate your job, because somebody's waiting in line to get your job. And I grew up with that work ethic, thinking I've always need to go above and beyond, which I did. My dad would also say, treat your fellow man with respect, regardless of color, and you'll have a good life. Work hard, strong work ethic. And another thing he would say is, always tell the truth. The truth will set you free. And so my dad instilled in me a lot of values and teachings. My mom would say, remember, if someone's talking about you and criticizing you, just know you're giving someone else a rest. Because a person that's negative and going to criticize others is going to find somebody. And if they're on you, then other folks are getting a rest. So just look at it like I'm helping out other folks, because now I'm the focus of the criticism. So I think that was maybe some good advice from my mom. And my mom also said, and remember, whatever job you get in life, just remember, a bird never flies so high they don't have to come down to earth for a crumb. So never get so big and high-minded that you don't think you have to come down. Everybody does. And I think back at my mentor, Mr. Saunders, Mr. Herb Saunders. When I said to Mr. Saunders I was a teacher, Mr. Saunders, I'm thinking about going back and getting my master's degree. What do you suggest I get my master's degree in? And he said, well, Betty, you have a teaching degree. You can always teach. Get your master's in administration, and then you have 2 routes to go for a job. As soon as I got my master's from the University of Virginia, then Mr. Saunders did appoint me assistant principal at Dale City Elementary School to help implement the year-round school program that many of you remember, but a lot of you were not involved in that. But that was a very hot issue at that time in '71. Some liked it, some did not. But it worked for 10 years in the system. from that strong work ethic, when I retired to run for the school board 20 years ago in '95, I had 400 days on the book that I have never taken because I was a workaholic. I took such a beating on my leave because I did not get paid for a lot of those days when they computed them down. And I took what I would have made had I taken those days and got per diem pay. I gave up about $15,000. Now I go into central office feeling so proud of what a strong work ethic I had. And I won't say who it was, but the supervisor of human resources said to me, "Betty, are you crazy or what? Why in the world would you do this?" You know, and I said, well, I have to look at it like I'm grateful I wasn't sick. There's a plus to that. If I didn't have to be out, some years I didn't miss a day. And that was because I was healthy. God gave me good health. And so I was a winner in the long run because it's not money always that counts. And on this board, when I came on this board in 2004, the very first month I was on, my brother-in-law passed away, and I had to go to a funeral down in North Carolina, and I missed a meeting. After that one meeting, I have not missed a school board meeting in 11 years. So my commitment has been there to this board, to this school system, to the teaching, assistant principal, principal's jobs I've had. And I looked at serving on the board, really like payback and a community service. That's what we do. We are community service folks. Because I felt appreciative of the fact that the system provided me with a job. And if on the board I could give expertise and experience and be used as a resource and help, then I felt like it's almost like a community service to give back to a system that provided me with a job for 40 years. So the many hours that we spend, and believe me, in hearing about the pay, I jokingly tell the board sometimes, you know, when I look at the hours, if I was paid per hour, and the gas money I spend and whatever, I pay this board to allow me to serve, to get beat up on and criticized sometimes. That's just about what we do, because the hours we put in some of those late meetings, I will miss, but in some way I won't miss either, because when you all are sitting up here in those long budget sessions, well, I won't say I'll be sleeping because I'm a night owl. I might be watching it some, but anyway, those long meetings are yet to come, and they're not going to go away. So for new board members coming on, they're going to find they will be putting in a lot of hours too. Mr. Saunders always told me, Betty, never become a politician. Stay the educator. They're different. As an educator, you ought not get into politics. And that's one reason I never joined a political party. I always said, when I was asked what political party you belong to, I belong to the Children's Party. Well, maybe that didn't help me win the election, because I was told if you belong to a party, they would support you, put money in your campaign and whatever. But I never have, and I was elected 4 times, so it did work 4 times that I didn't belong to a political party. And I got that, of course, advice from Mr. Saunders, who said, stay the educator. Now, I know anytime you run for something, if you run for a Sunday school teacher, it's going to get political, because you got to beg people to vote for you. But I did try to separate the politics and education as much as I possibly could. And then today, I went to a program. I was honored at Triangle Elementary School, the Holly Jolly Pirates at Pinataville. And it was a wonderful musical by the children, and they had the pinatas and the pirates and whatever, directed by Alicia Bonkowski. Over 800 kids. What a wonderful program. And the entire program was about forgiveness. Forgiveness is the treasure we seek, because in the end, they were forgiven for stealing the pinatas, and it was just a wonderful play. And I thought, gee, that's what I was going to say tonight, that I'm leaving with no hard feelings, no anger, not being disgruntled, and forgiving anybody. And, you know, I learned one time years ago, the minister said, if someone's done you wrong, don't wait for them to ask you for forgiveness. It may never happen. Just go on and forgive them anyway. And that way you've kind of cleansed yourself, and then it's up to the other person as to how they feel. So, anyone who didn't vote for me, I forgive you. Anyone who campaigned against me, I forgive you. And I'm leaving with no anger and no malice toward anyone. As I said, not disgruntled. Now, come January, my husband says, then what are you going to do in January, you know, when you get bored? Well, all my life I've never really gotten bored. And I've already been asked a couple of boards to join the board of directors for 2 different organizations. I'm not going to join anything right away because I need to wait. Because I had a fellow principal one time who, Miss Jessie, was at your school, Mr. Elmore, years back before you were there, who retired, and he stopped off to see me at Kill Me one day, and I said, so Mr. Elmore, how's retirement? And he said, Miss Betty, now that I retired, I don't have any time to do anything. I'm out there now volunteering and doing so much that I have got myself involved in so much, I'm really not retired. I'm just doing everything for free now. So, thank all of you so much. I had a list of people I was going to thank, and then that's risky because when you start thanking individuals, you leave out someone, and then they're upset and their feelings are hurt. So I just say thank you to everyone, all the parents, all the students, all the teachers, everyone who has helped me be successful. And I'll end by saying Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and remember the reason for our season. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing. Miss Jessie's one of my best friends, always has been. We shared schools close together. She always will be. We're both from the South. We have a lot of same ideas.
I think we're sisters, aren't we?
Sisters at birth. We love the same foods. And anyway, we will continue to stay friends. And thank all of you board members. We'll stay friends too, but Miss Jessie is special. And thank you, Dr. Waltz. You've been a wonderful superintendent, and I was one of the last 3 on the board that helped hire you, and you've done a good job. We made a good choice with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Covington. I'm going to pause for just a moment.
Wait, I have one more thing. I had this on my note, and I didn't bring it out. This is brief. Ecclesiastes says, there's a time to be born, a time to die. There's a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to be silent, time to speak. There's a lot more, and I ended it up by saying there's a time to win and a time to lose. It was my time to lose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Covington, for stealing part of my closing. Speaking outside of your allotted time, but that's okay.